You know, have you ever stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, a simple flower could hold the secret to a peaceful life? It sounds kind of wild, right? But believe it or not, a Korean scholar from about 900 years ago thought exactly that. So let's get into it. So take a look at this. This is the Haenghwa, or the apricot blossom. Way back in the 12th century, a scholar official named Choi Yu-cheong was so completely captivated by this flower that he had to write a poem about it. But this poem, it's so much more than just a tribute to a pretty plant. It's actually a really deep dive into joy, reality, and that universal search for freedom. The poem just kicks off with this explosion of pure happiness. And to really get how deeply the poet is feeling this moment, we gotta break down the first two lines and look at a couple of really key words. Okay, first up we have this term pyeongsang. In Korean, it means lifetime or one's whole life. It's this beautiful combination of pyeong, which means peace, and sang for life. So it's not just about time passing, it's about the entire journey of a life. And then there's this word, guang. This one puts together peng for wind and guang for light. And together, they create this incredible concept, the scenery, the sheer beauty of the natural world. Isn't it amazing how just two characters can paint such a huge, vivid picture? So when the poet puts it all together in the first line, he's making this huge, powerful statement. He's saying, throughout my entire lifetime, my Pyeongsang, the one thing I have loved more than anything is the 풍광, the beauty of the natural world. And that lifelong love for nature brings him right to this moment. The very next line says, today, before this flower, my joy is almost madness. I mean, wow. This isn't just quiet appreciation. This is a wild, overwhelming joy that's so intense, he feels like he's about to lose his mind over it. But right when we're sort of sinking into this moment of pure bliss, the poet does something completely unexpected. He takes a hard left turn, straight into the world of philosophy. The whole mood of the poem just pivots on this one fascinating idea. He says he wants to borrow something called a butterfly dream. And you've got to ask, what on earth does that even mean? Well, this isn't just some random poetic image. It's a direct shout-out to one of the most famous philosophical stories in all of East Asia. The term is hojipmong. That's the Korean way of saying the butterfly dream. And it comes from this ancient philosopher, Zhuangzi, or as he's known in Korea, Zhuangzi. And he lived about 1400 years before our poet. So this is a deep cut. You see, Zhuangzi told this story where he dreamed he was a butterfly, just fluttering around, having a great time with no idea that he was a man named Zhuangzi. But then he woke up, and that left him with this incredible mind-bending question. Am I a man who just dreamed he was a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly, right now, dreaming that I'm a man? It's this brilliant little puzzle that makes you question everything you think is real. So let's see how our poet uses this. He says he wants to borrow the butterfly dream of the lacquer garden. Now, the lacquer garden, or Chilwon, isn't just a random place. It's specifically where Zhuangzi once worked. So our poet isn't just talking about the dream, he is calling on the spirit of Zhuangzi himself. So why? Why would a man who is experiencing this moment of absolute perfect joy suddenly want to just dissolve into a philosophical dream? What is he trying to get away from by wanting to become this butterfly? Well, to get it, you need to know a bit more about Zhuangzi. When the king offered him the job of prime minister, the most powerful position in the land, Zhuangzi turned it down. He told his story about how he'd rather be a live turtle, happy and dragging his tail in the mud, than be a sacred, dead turtle shell locked up in a fancy box in the king's palace. He chose freedom over power, every single time. And that right there perfectly explains our poet's inner conflict. Remember, Choi Yu-cheong was a high-ranking official. His life was all about duty, ambition, rules, and social pressure. The butterfly, on the other hand, the one inspired by Zhuangzi, represents the complete opposite. Absolute freedom, a life lived for simple, natural joy, and total spiritual liberation from all that worldly stuff. And the very last line of the poem just lays out this fantasy of what that freedom would feel like. He imagines being the butterfly, and he wants to circle the branches, cling to the pistils, and fly about freely. Just completely free, with no goal other than the pure joy of that exact moment. So you see, the big takeaway here is that this poem is way more than just a pretty picture. That apricot blossom is like a trigger, a gateway that reminds the poet of a much deeper kind of wisdom, a whole other way of living that's a world away from his day-to-day life. By wanting to become that butterfly, the poet is really reaching for these incredible virtues. He's yearning for soyok, which is simplicity and being content with very little. He's looking for jijok, the wisdom of knowing when you have enough. He wants pyongan, which is just a state of deep peacefulness. And maybe most of all, he craves jungsanjake jayu, true spiritual and mental freedom. And that is the ultimate wisdom of the apricot blossom. The poem is telling us that real wisdom, it isn't found in climbing the ladder or getting more power or more wealth. It's found in letting go of all that. It's about rising above worldly desires to find this incredible state of inner peace and freedom, just like a butterfly does among the flowers. To circle the branches, cling to the pistils, and fly about freely. You know, that's not just an escape. It's a profound spiritual goal. It's this deep desire to find a joy so pure and a freedom so complete that the lines between you and the world just melt away. So that really just leaves us with one last question to think about. In our own busy lives, filled with all our duties and ambitions, what's the thing that makes you stop in your tracks and reminds you of that deeper sense of freedom? What or where is your apricot blossom?